Coffee nerds, as you know, coffee brewers themselves are coming in all different shapes and sizes. And I also happen to know that a lot of you like to collect different brewers to put on your coffee shelf and of course brew with them. But today what I want to do is show you how to make your own brewer at home with just a bit of paper. Now, obviously I've made my own little template here, but let's get cracking. Now, I'm sure you can make yours better than mine, but let's grab our little jar here. It's actually a great activity to do with your kids at home. Grab a paper filter, some coffee, of course, and there you have it, your very own Origami filter. Let's make a quick brew. I'm kidding. This isn't the Origami, but if anyone does have a homemade coffee brewer at home, do let me know in the comments. I need to see that. This is the Origami Dripper Coffee Brewer, and what I'm actually going to do today is show you the recipe that I feel really brought this brewer to the world stage back in 2019, or maybe more specifically the person who brought it to the world stage in the World Brewers Cup. The champion JiaNing from Nanjing, China, used a beautiful set of pink origami drippers for her routine. And then I'm also gonna show you some of the things that I feel about this brewer which makes it really unique as compared to maybe a V60 or a Kalita, which are both very great drippers. As we have here, you can see it's a slight combination of the two. Let's get right to brewing. So, in my opinion, one of the coolest things about the Origami Dripper is that you can use both Kalita filters and V60 filters inside this brewer. So it's very versatile, but in our case, JiaNing, she used Kalita filters. So we're gonna pop one of those right in there. And the reason why she used the Kalita filter, as you can see, it fits in perfectly with these 20 different grooves here. And she used it because you can get a much thinner coffee bed, which allows for a more even extraction in her words, and also the wider opening on the bottom, which allows for a quicker extraction and therefore a little bit more clarity in the cup. So let's get our handmade brewer out of the way and put this right on top. Also, another awesome thing that I love about using Kalita filters in here is that I'm notorious for messing up these Kalita filters in a Kalita. Maybe you have a strategy that is more concise than mine, but as you can see here, you can rigorously douse this with water and it stays all in one piece. So I love that. Get that out of there. And now we have our dripper ready for the brew. Also, another unique thing about, let's get this out of here. I normally don't have pre-ground coffee. And now we're actually gonna get to grinding quite a bit, because one of the unique things that has used in her recipe, or one way that she really personalized it, was she did a double grind. So first she ground a coarse grind in her hand grinder, and then she ran it through again and did a more fine grind. And the reason why is she found that just made a much more even particle distribution of the grinds themselves. And the coffee that she used, that is a very, very important component. She spoke a lot about it in her presentation, which I don't have. It was a 90+ coffee from Gesha village in Ethiopia, literally one of the most high quality coffees, also one of the most expensive coffees in the world. I have here a Venezuelan coffee, but it was graded around 90 points, so it has that going for it. Definitely not the same coffee, but we're talking more about the methodology, and the flavor you can't taste anyway. So let's get to grinding. Coarse ground first. So I'm gonna weigh out 16 grams here. Coarse grind. So let's knock this back to maybe like a French press grind, or maybe even a little bit coarser, I'm not quite sure. All right, round one. She actually did this also to get rid of some of the chaff, but I'm too lazy to do that today. So we're just gonna put this right back in. Probably something closer to what you would use on a Kalita. All right, that is a lot more grinding than I normally do, but it's gonna be worth it. So let's pop this on here. Again, I mentioned 16 grams. And another thing that did for this recipe is she used a funnel to distribute the grinds right in the middle, but since I don't really have one of those, I'm gonna use this V60. And then another thing was she used this really nice needle or stick, but I have a lot of chopsticks at home, so I'm just gonna give that a quick swirl to fluff up the coffee, in her words. Put this away, and let's get into this slightly complicated recipe, but you'll get the feel for it. So set the timer, and in 10 seconds, I want to do 60 grams of coffee. So it's 6 grams per second. And then that will let bloom for a little bit as well, around 10 seconds or so. Getting a lot of nice aromas, of course. And then what she did next was a slower pour, 6 grams a second, 80 milliliters of water in 20 seconds. So we're going for 140 milliliters here. Probably not doing this the most accurately, but that is the next step. So over the next 20 seconds, we want to add 80 milliliters of water at 94 degrees, and we let that drip through a little bit more until we've got a nice moist bed here, around 20 seconds or so more. And then we want to finish it off another 100 milliliters, and we're going to do a slightly in the middle speed, so 5 grams per second as she mentioned in her routine, and we're ending at 240 milliliters on the dot for this brew, which should give us around, or gave her around 190 milliliters of coffee. So this is it. It looks pretty good on the top. The world-winning Brewer's Cup recipe from JiaNing, and I love it. It is a little bit complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's really straightforward, and the origami makes it so much easier to do. But if you don't have an origami at home, get creative. Try a different brewer. Maybe not as creative as making your own out of paper, but you can use a V60, Kalita, maybe even a Chemex or some other brewer that you have on your shelf. I know you have a lot. And now, why don't we try this coffee out? Grab a cup, and I've also left Du's Instagram down in the description. So if you go down there, click that link, give her some love for coming up with this really cool, interesting and innovative recipe on the origami. Wow, yeah, very clear. It has a little bit of body to it, but a lot of that acidity is coming through because of the quick drawdown, the quick extraction. Try it yourself. And I'd be curious, what is your favorite brewer? What kind of brewer do you use at home? Leave it in the comments. I want to check it out. Maybe it's not a very conventional one. And if you got anything out of this video, if you got some nice recipe ideas, do leave me a like. That helps these videos get a little bit more exposure. It helps me out a lot. And now, as usual, would be a great time to subscribe because we got more coffee content coming down the chute real quick. Gambe.